40-game period, I think the discipline's been very good.
Isolated big matches.
Yeah.
Galway last year, All-Ireland final. Galway this year.
Yeah, yeah, and that is true. And I think you can look at it, maybe the big moments in the big games, that's what's maybe been the defining moments in the games. Look at the All-Ireland last year. Of course, it was a defining moment in the match, but I think it certainly was a defining moment in this game as well on Sunday.
Speaking of big moments, defining big matches, Richie, Teddy Thomas will feature in our discussion about the rugby after 8 o'clock. Rule number 1 of wing play is what I'm reading all weekend. Don't run into touch.
As a rugby man, you should know this inherently. This should be the textbook that you received at birth.
It's tattooed on my back. So Teddy Thomas, for whatever reason,
Joe is a flying winger, by the way.
Yeah. For whatever reason, Teddy Thomas, with Leinster had not been in front in this game until the 78th minute, and decides still inexplicably to head for the touchline. Even his coaches afterwards, the two Lorens, were saying, yeah, we're not too sure. Maxime Machineau put his head in his hands, and Dan Carter just laughed, almost in confusion. He didn't understand, coming from New Zealand where they do very intelligent things most of the time. Almost didn't understand what was happening.
It came back to that Matty Williams' prophetic quote on commentary here in Off the Ball on Saturday, where he said someone's going to do something that defines their career, possibly in a bad way, and somebody's going to do something that ends up impacting hugely positively upon the side, and there we had it. Teddy Thomas for Racing with his rush of blood to the head, and Easton Asawa with absolute ice in his veins, taking the step up to kick with Johnny Sexton, seemingly struggling with a groin injury, and I was kicking it off somewhat.
He seemed to damage his groin when he slipped.
Yeah.
The pitch obviously wasn't very good. And
fatter ball as well, Joe, with that bigger sweet spot.
Yeah, it's a thing. Well, we were trying to figure this out earlier. Why do they do this? But of course, the home teams get to pick the ball up until semi-final stages, which is when.
Oh right, so that's it.
The European rugby.
This has gone over my head.
Officials decide the ball. Yeah,
That's why there should be a standardised ball.
There's not a standardised. They play with different balls at all the grounds. It's like England back in the 80s,
or even France. Do you remember France used to have that brown thing with the black tips? That's what we used to play on with in the Parc des Princes.
That's a joke. That's a makes a mockery of the sport. Then.
Oof! How dare you talk about my sport like that?
No, that's a joke.
That's going to be tweeted now. That's going to be a nice quote.
It's not a joke.
That is a joke.
It's just tradition.
Come on, that's not tradition. It's not the game. How can you use different balls for different games?
Why are you so upset about this? Footballers use different balls all the time.
Well, it's like using a different white colour, different white balls. But
they're all exactly the same diameter and everything, aren't they? They're all the same shape.
Well, this was the same shape.
All round.
Of course, it's the same shape. Yeah, but I mean,
bigger.
You've got a standard size 5 football, and there might be different weights. We know the Adidas and the Nike balls, they do differ.
Soccer special, wing carrier.
But come on, that's a joke. See, I've never heard that. That's just.
There you go, Gav.
Sorry, I'm just paying attention to the under 17s on the TV here, but that's embarrassing.
We'll get to them in a second.
Never thought he'd get so excited about this.
This is the angriest I've ever seen you.
Come on.
I haven't seen this angry since we talked Royal Wedding last week.
Looking forward to it, Joe.
Listen, we'll talk to Shane Jennings and Eddie O'Sullivan after 8 o'clock. Apparently the ball that they used for the semi-finals and finals had a bigger panel set up and therefore a bigger sweet spot, so it was easier to kick.
Right.
But other than that, I don't think it was massively different. I don't think it damaged the integrity of the win. I don't think we'll be saying that Leinster's 2017-18 season tarnished by the fact they had different balls.
No, but I just find that bizarre. I find it absolutely. It's bizarre.
It is a bit odd. You would think to be a standardised ball.
Standardised ball for the competition.
No, seriously, it's not a bit odd. It's bizarre.
I tell you, so we had the GAA with Billy Joe Padden and Ray Silk at 7:30. We'll be talking hurling with Dahi at 8:40. So beautiful hurling was back in all our lives yesterday, which meant that beautiful Tommy Welch was also back in our lives yesterday. Tommy Welch, hello.
Joe, welcome to Parnell Park. The sun is out, Joe, the people are out, and we'll have a full house, I'd say, in a few minutes here. It's filling up nicely, and the Dubs are just after coming out to a loud cheer.
I'm told you arrived at 5 a.m. this morning.
No, well, I was up here since last night, Joe. My uncle is part of the Whitehall Column Kills Club just down the road, and the lip sync competition. So I was asked just to help him out and be a judge. And the funny thing about it was, Joe, the guys that won, there were two guys dressed up as Rihanna. And I was coming in the turnstiles today, and who let me in the turnstiles? Only your man dressed up as Rihanna. I said to him he was looking better last night. So yeah, I had to fry this morning in my Uncle William's house. The eggs, like my granny used to make them, they were done in Kerrygold butter and all. So It was a great start to the day.
It's the detail.
God bless
it's the detail that man gives you.
God bless the man.
Solid gold.
He's a gift.
He's the best thing about coming to work on a Sunday.
He is a gift.
Hey,
Aside from hanging out with Richie for the day.
What a man.
7 hours in my presence, Joe, has been called acceptable by some people.
Seriously.
Second best thing.
Seriously.
He's a hell of a man. He's just loving life.
Yeah.
Tommy Walsh.
Loving hurling.
Loving hurling, loving life.
Oh, yeah.
Loving people.
He's just class.
We then got tweeted in the video the two lads doing their Rihanna lip sync.
Yeah.
Very sexual.
Was he?
I mean,
Whitehall Colin Killens is
Has
a
that
family
been
show.
tweeted out?
it was supposed to be a family show. No. I think I liked it, but it's there. It's doing
right.
the rounds.
Right, I'll have to get it.
It was actually very good.
We quote tweeted it yesterday. Yeah, it's something.
Is it?
It's definitely
Is
something.
it a thing of beauty?
Yeah, it is.
Beauty is a very mobile word. You can interpret it in a lot of ways.
I would say
don't know if
it
I'd put beauty as the moniker of that particular video.
Right.
It's visceral.
I get you. I get what you're trying to
You
tell
feel
me.
it in your bones, Kev.
Yeah.
You can't unsee it. But the two lads won. That's all that counts.
Fair play to
And
them,
then good GAA men
You've got
at the turnstiles the next
Tommy
day.
Welsh, he's judging on the contest.
Money got raised for charity. Tommy got to have eggs at his Uncle William's house in the Kerrygold butter the way his grandma used to make. That's what you want.
And it was an amazing match as well. So we'll talk about that with Dahi around 8:40 or so after the rugby. Let's get into the news round. We are here with Air, the home of Air Sport. Get amazing live sporting content free with Air Broadband. And Kev mentioned the under-17. So it's not often we have a European quarter-final to look forward to.
Yeah, and the Republic of Ireland under-17s are in that quarter-final. They're taking on the Netherlands. They kicked off at 7 o'clock in Chesterfield. 12 and a half minutes gone now. It's still scoreless, and England await the winners in the semi-finals. Earlier today in the competition, Belgium beat Spain 2-1 in Walsall to set up a semi-final meeting with Italy. It seems Kev's had more of an eye on this one than me, that Netherlands have had more of the running in the opening exchanges of this particular game.
The Netherlands, hot favourites. They topped Group D. They had 3 wins from 3. Ireland got through their group with 2 wins from 3. The Dutch, technically good, Kev?
Technically very good. It was interesting listening to Steve McPhail and Brian Kerr in the studio before the game, talking about how Colin O'Brien would line up, would set up with his side tactically, and Steve McPhail spoke about he's going to have to try to get a balance of when to go and press them and when to try and sit off. Majority of the time it's been sat off, it's been very deep, but defensively they look well organised, and to be fair, technically very good, the Dutch. But I think in general, I think the lads are holding their own at the moment and having spells in the game where they're able to get hold of the ball,
Per Kevin, he's taken his Mayo frustration out on the lads over the rugby ball issue. Loving Killer's exasperation at the different balls in rugby, I'm in agreement. It's like replacing the brown ball in the Crucible with a Malteser, although it's not really. It's a rugby ball. It's give or take the same thing.
Well, you could there was degrees where you could see that it affected play on Saturday.
In the Champions League for a long time, the home team chose different balls.
Yeah, but it'd be different. But it was only until maybe mid-90s would it have been. It was certainly not the start of the Premier League when there wasn't a standard ball.
Yeah, but I'm talking Champions League for a long time. There were different balls. I remember late 90s, different balls.
Different balls, yeah. But
you'd go to Barcelona, you'd have a Nike ball.
The point is, they get the same circumference. You've got the same size.
The ball is still round.
The ball is still a bit different.
Yeah, it's different. Because it's different. As I said, you've got a Nike ball, you've got an Adidas ball. Yeah. There would have been different balls.
So that's all that's happening in rugby.
Whoever.
That's all that's happening in rugby.
But usually it's different sizes. There's a sweeter spot on the ball. There's no sweeter spot on the ball.
There's a bigger, sweeter spot, but give or take is the same thing.
Well, the sweeter spot is a crucial part of kicking, though.
But the Nike ball may have had a slightly different trajectory. Might have been easier to kick than the Adidas ball. I'm sure they couldn't have all been the same. You never said the Champions League was.
The game was dominated by kicking at the weekend, so you can't. That's going to have an influence on the match.
Some say a game of football is dominated by kicking.
No. Okay, but you know what I'm saying, though. That
there were handling errors involved on Saturday as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of it because I saw quite a lot of it actually.
But how is it different?
Of course, it's
Champions League.
You've got a bigger sweeter spot when if you're striking a ball and you know how you're striking a ball constantly.
Yeah. Same for both sides, though.
Yeah, of course it's simple, but that's not the point. It's a different. But you're using a different ball, say with your league game or whatever it will be.
Be good for his blood pressure.
Week to week.
At his advanced age.
And then you have a different size ball with a bigger sweet spot.
Don't be getting this worked up. It's not good.
But I just think this bizarre.
See?
Someone not happy with us. Absolutely huge achievement today by Kevin O'Brien. I'm a great fan of Mayo football, Irish rugby and soccer, but it's unbelievable you didn't start with O'Brien's century. It's probably headline news in other cricket countries. Hasn't got a mention yet on our Premier Sports show, says Brian.
Well,
Waterford. No, it's a fair point. I'll be honest here. We've done pre-record, we've done different bits. I'm sorry to say I have not seen a ball of Kevin O'Brien's century, so talk to us about it, Richie.
Yeah, he's become the first player to hit a test century for Ireland. At stumps on day 4 today, Ireland had reached 319 for 7 against Pakistan. O'Brien remains not out on 118. An incredible knock from him this afternoon. Stuart Armstrong also passed the half-century mark today, building a 7-wicket partnership with O'Brien of 114. And Ireland end the day with a lead of 139. They went into today's play not knowing if they'd actually make Pakistan bat again. They've actually gone far, far better than that. They now have hopes of getting a draw, or perhaps even better, from this match. So fantastic display from Ireland, helped in no small part today by O'Brien. A fantastically composed knock. At no point, even in the nervous 90s, did he look like he was in real trouble or in danger of being out. So Pakistan, despite their best efforts with the ball, unable to remove O'Brien today.
So back they go again tomorrow.
Yeah, for a final day's play, and with weather supposedly mixed, it seems, tomorrow in Malahide. There is a chance that rain might enter into the equation. If rain does enter into the equation, then Ireland could be looking at a draw. And a draw against Pakistan in their Test debut is no small feat. They've already, I think, surpassed the highest second innings total for a Test debutant nation. So
okay,
it's looking good.
Turn this red around.
It's a very, very, very respectable start.
Brian in Waterford, I promise you we will have somebody from the cricket team on the show tomorrow night. We'll certainly do what we can. So there's live football here at home tonight.
Yeah, Dundalk can go top of the SSE Airtricity Premier Division this evening. Stephen Kenny's side face a tough examination, however. They're away to Derry City. Elsewhere, Waterford can pull level on points with the current leaders Cork City, with a win away to bottom side Bray. And both games kick off at 7:45, as they do in West London, where the first of this year's Championship playoff finalists will be decided tonight. Derby take a 1-0 lead to Craven Cottage for the second leg of their semi-final with Fulham. Leinster are losing a key member of their coaching staff. Gervin Dempsey is to leave the province at the end of the season to take up the role of attack coach with Premiership club Bath. Dempsey has been Leinster's backs coach since late 2015, and his departure ends a 23-year association with the province. Leinster and Munster, meanwhile, both have injury worries ahead of this Saturday's Pro 14 semi-final at the RDS. Robbie Henshaw is out for Leinster after suffering a knee injury during the weekend's Champions Cup final victory. Captain Eason Asewa has a calf injury, while Jonathan Sexton is nursing a groin problem. For Munster, tight head Stephen Archer is out after having surgery on a pectoral muscle issue, while Andrew Conway and Duncan Williams are both following the return to play protocols. Conway with the most recent of those head injuries.
Yeah, Shane Jennings and Eddie O'Sullivan on the way just after 8 o'clock. You've got the latest on Tom Parsons then?
Yeah, he's to undergo further tests this week to assess the extent of his knee injury. The Mayo midfielder suffered what appeared to be a dislocated knee during yesterday's 12-point loss to Galway in the Connacht Football Championship in Castlebar. Yesterday's loss was Mayo's third consecutive championship defeat to their neighbours, and James Horan was at the game for Off the Ball yesterday speaking with Owen and wasn't impressed with what he saw from either side.
Both teams will look back on that, or do the video analysis on it, and look at some of the basic mistakes that both teams made today. I think was phenomenal for a championship game. It was so poor. Some of the fundamentals, some of the hand passing, some of the movement, some of the shot selection. On both sides, how many did we see into the goalie's hands? How many did we see bouncing actually before it got to the goal from shots? Stalemate of a game. Whatever way the game went, you can only be positive for Galway, and particularly the way, as I said, their subs played and the guys that came on, the changes that they made, things that they did. It's only positive for that Galway team. I think they do have individual players that can change things when things aren't going for them. The Shane Walsh, sometimes he'd drive you crazy with what he does, but then times his brilliance is unbelievable. I think Ian Burke, when he came on, I think Eamon Brannigan, when he gets to full fitness, they're huge players. But Peter Cook and Duggan, Tom Flynn in the middle of the field have filled out. They've a couple of years conditioning under them. They look really strong, and they have a defensive setup that's did Mayo have any real goal chances there? Was there anything? Can you even remember one?
Yeah, damning enough from Horan. On the wides count, Mayo had 11 wides, Galway had 6. That said, Mayo did drop another 3 short. They had 1 off the post, and in a low-scoring game, it felt like a lot. Galway did drop 5 short, so they weren't blameless themselves. On the whole issue of Galway's defensive setup is in the first half. I was in here, so I didn't necessarily... I may have misunderstood the criticisms on the Sunday game, but generally there was a feeling that Galway weren't pressing Mayo in the first half. They just had this arc and were saying, well, come and break us down, and this was being criticised. Given that Mayo were into the wind, it made perfect sense to me. There was no need to go and engage Mayo. They had them at range. It was very hard for Mayo to just pop shots over the bar, even if they weren't under massive pressure. It seemed like a really acceptable, perfectly sensible thing for Galway to do in that first half. And then Mayo helped them out with some really bad wides as well.
Yeah, his name, Sean Kavanagh was on the Sunday game as well. So he was saying, look, it was quite... He expected Galway to play that way, and he's mentioned the things that you've mentioned there, particularly the way it was. So... you're in good company there, Joe.
I think during the game they were critical of Galway at half time. I didn't quite see it. I was in here. But
no, I mean, again, I didn't necessarily see that myself, but more so from watching the Sunday game last night as well and seeing what the lads were saying. Yeah, I think the way that Galway have played through the league, they have been strong and they've played that certain way, and it's difficult to break down. It's difficult to get goal chances against it that James Horan spoke about there as well.
Let's go over to Dan McDonnell. He's in Chesterfield. First 22 minutes gone between Netherlands and Ireland in this European Championships quarter-final under-17s. Dan, how's it looking?
Yeah, it's early days, Joe, in many ways. The tone of the game has been set with, the Dutch having a lot of the ball, and Ireland, I suppose, setting the challenge and saying, see if you can break us down. And there's been the odd sort of promise an Irish break and one opportunity to get a cross into the box that was overhit, but generally it's been sort of Holland down in the play. Now they are the favourites. They've come through a difficult group. The Dutch scoring 7 goals without reply, so they are the resounding favourites. And I mean, I suppose they're looking like it here so far, although I suppose Ireland have been quite disciplined enough in their defending and haven't necessarily let the Dutch in behind them too many times. They've been compact enough, but they've also played the offside trap once or twice. And yeah, it's a typical 0-0 sort of cat and mouse game so far.
Okay, Dan will be with you right across the evening. 23 minutes gone, 0-0 in that game. Richie, a few more stories. Unrest in Offaly football, it seems.
Yeah, remarkable story, this one. The position of Offaly football manager Stephen Wallace is being described as untenable. It's understood that there is serious unrest in the faithful camp following yesterday's Leinster Championship defeat to Wicklow. Midlands Radio's commentator Brian Gavin was there and outlined the extent of the issues within the panel.
Johnny Maloney, as we know, early in the year, opted out after a disagreement with management. We can't afford to lose players like him. Young James Lawler was only told 40 minutes before the game that he wasn't starting. Nigel Dunn, who has been our top scorer in the National Football League and who was starting to get into the game yesterday after 25 minutes, was taken off. He looked distraught. He was angry. One couldn't blame him. We went in at half-time after an Anton Sullivan goal, lucky enough to post 3 up, but I think there was the mood in the dressing room at half-time. There was a lot of arguing, there was a lot of shouting, a lot of fighting. Nigel Dunn definitely left the dressing room. He was heading to his car to go home. He was persuaded to come back. He came on in the second half and unfortunately missed a penalty, but one couldn't blame the chap with the mindset he'd be in. And then Sean Pender was taken off, and he told one of the management exactly what he thought of being taken off as well.
Right.
Wallace isn't long for that job, it would seem. The word from within seems to be that the players will take action and essentially, I don't know if down tools is the right course of action or right words to use here, but they have no real desire to keep playing for Stephen Wallace. That's the word coming from the Offaly camp over the past 24 hours.
We might do something more in that story. Tomorrow I hadn't fully realised that was going on. And then Paris Saint-Germain have got their man.
Yeah, they have, and that man is Thomas Tuchel. He's been confirmed as the new head coach at the Parc des Princes. The former Borussia Dortmund boss takes over from Unai Emery, who led PSG to a domestic treble this season, but suffered a second-round Champions League exit at the hands of Real Madrid. As I mentioned, a 2-year deal for Tuchel at the Parc des Princes.
Are you a fan of Tuchel, Kev?
Do you know what? I've not really seen too much of his sides playing. Obviously, the Dortmund sides that were playing, they were very open and very attack-minded, and I think that's the only way you're going to get a big job in Europe this season. He probably plays, for wanting a better phrase, sexy football. He plays a style of football that will certainly be conducive with PSG. That's the type of play they've got. It'll be open, it'll be attractive, probably a little bit vulnerable defensively, but he'll certainly set his side up. It's been a done deal for a while, hasn't it? We've expected it for a long time, haven't we? But I think he'll certainly go in there. I think he's got to get all that dressing room. It looks like Neymar will be gone, so he won't necessarily have that problem to deal with. Yeah. That's the way it seems to me anyway. So
and that is a big problem.
I think it is a problem, yeah.
Neymar coupled with Alves. I don't think the role of Dani Alves in that relationship has been played enough.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk to Pat Nevin on the Football Show. Any questions for Pat, get them in, 53106, or you'll get us at Off The Ball on Twitter. So, it's rugby after 8 o'clock. It is hurling with Dahi Regan around 8:45 or so. And up next, we're talking about the weekend's football. Billy Joe Padden and Ray Silk on the way next.
Off The Ball on News Talk. In association with the Air Sport app, allowing you to cast your favourite sporting action from your tablet or mobile phone straight to your TV. The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, Anthony Scaramucci, the former White House Communications Director, on Donald Trump, John McCain, Korea and Iran. We'll find out if the Russians are planning a mass slaughter of stray dogs ahead of this year's World Cup. Stuart Clark reports back from drug injection centres in Portugal. The Palestinian ambassador live in studio. We'll hear about the best mobile Bluetooth speakers for the summer. And the man who inherited a collection of photographs of